perhaps you want to tell us about what role Maritime has played in developing the community here.
Well, for the viewers and the listeners, the Beaufort is on this incredible, beautiful coastal ecosystem, and that's the starting point and the end point for our community. Really and that's why I'm so adamant about protecting this wonderful ecosystem that we have. But if you are in this community on Front Street 301 years ago, you would look south of here and you would see Blackbeard the pirate and his crew feverishly getting some of the supplies off of his ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, onto 3 sloops. And you would say, well, that's just buffoonery of navigation. But the reality is, the experts say that he was doing a little bit of corporate downsizing, because he had just come back from blockade in the port of Charleston, had gotten a little bit too big, and so he offloads to the sloops. He goes off to Bath, North Carolina. The governor of North Carolina pardons him, and that's a whole different story. But Blackbeard, being the pirate that he is, couldn't stand it anymore, and he goes back to piracy, and he's killed off of Ocracoke a couple of weeks later. If you were in this position in 1812 on Front Street, you would see blockade runners going through the shallows in the middle of the night, getting supplies back and forth to Beaufort past the British blockade. If you were here in 1862, you would see in the middle of the night free slaves from over in Morehead City helping Union soldiers go through the shallows, actually underneath the cannons of Fort Macon that protects Beaufort Inlet, where there was a Confederate fort at the time, to the street corners of Beaufort. And Beaufort wakes up and we're occupied. And you would say, well, people must have been furious about that, and to a degree. But we had such a close relationship with New England because we were so isolated. We were as close to New England as we were to New Bern. Right. So it wasn't as much of an outrage as you would expect. And even some of the family names here have a very close association with New England. Yeah, Chadwick is a very prominent name that's here. And even the whaling community. Now, we had a whaling community out on Shackleford Banks, which is now part of the Cape Lookout National Seashore. It was called the Diamond City. And these were very resilient people. They could take some hardship. And they just continually got pounded by hurricanes, and they said, we're sticking it out. They get pounded by another hurricane in 1896. They said, we're sticking it out. They got pounded by another hurricane in 1899. They said, we're out.
Yeah.
But you can trace those names that often have lineage to New England, to Morehead City, to Beaufort. Morehead City is actually called the Promised Land, where they settled, and then down east you can see where all those families are. So that we are interconnected before having the pleasure of meeting you here in Beaufort as well. And even in World War II, if you were on Front Street, you would see the whole sky is lit up, because German U-boats are off the coast of North Carolina, and they're just having a way in 1942 with the convoys that were going north and south. And we know that there are 5 U-boats that are actually off the coast right now. I had the fortune of diving on one, not a U-boat, but the one of the victims of the U-boats, the Carib Sea. So it was just really neat to be able to dive on that ship, and you're amongst these massive 12-foot sand tiger sharks with the big gnarly teeth. Fortunately for me, they're very docile. Yep. But it's a good story nonetheless, right? But there are also U-boats that you can dive off the coast of North Carolina. The Battle of the Atlantic is part of a NOAA initiative now, right now as well. So a lot of really close ties with New England, and I just appreciate the partnership that we have developed.
Yeah.